Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online episode review. This one's going to be for Season 1, Episode 13, Edge of Hell's Abyss. Second last episode of the Aincrad arc. We continue on with Part 2 of the DVD sets. And in terms of the novels, we go back to Part 1. And we'll remain there for this and the next episode to finish off this arc. Again, things are fairly to the point between both. The anime is a really good adaptation of the book. There's not a lot to say that's really different between them. And in general, I think that's the case with Sword Art Online. Most of it is a really good adaptation. So, from there, let's get into the actual episode. It's a kind of interesting episode in that it's kind of like half what the kind of past 2-3 episodes have been, and then half we are getting into some really serious stuff here. And so yeah, we start off on floor 22. Obviously, immediately after Yui and stuff like that, we see Asuna still wearing the necklace with Yui's heart on it. And yeah, in this case, we just get this kind of fun fishing thing with this guy Nishida, and just that Kirito is developing a non-battle skill himself, that being fishing. It's not working out. He meets this guy who has strong battle skills. And you know, the job that the guy says that he's kind of chief marketing manager or something like that of an internet company that runs SAO. So like, okay, that's how he got the game first and foremost. And it links a little bit into the stuff that happens in the ALO arc coming up very soon. But for the most part, it's just them. The main part of this, for the main job of the first part of this episode is just to show Kirito and Asuna's impact that they have on this fisherman, who himself is kind of has come to just accept life in this world. You know, they invite him back for dinner. Everything's fine. He tells them about the legend of this, basically the king of fishes in the game, which in itself is a pretty cool video game thing. That, of course, any game that has fishing in it, there is going to be one legendary fish that requires not just high fishing skill, but something else. In this case, a high strength stat. So Kirito teams up with him, and they have the big show as they try and catch it, and it works out well. You get some humorous stuff with Kirito constantly not knowing what's going on, and Asuna's left to save the day. And then we see how big of a celebrity she is, in that like everyone knows who she is. And she's really popular, whereas Kirito is just this kind of relative unknown in the game, despite all the beater stuff, the dual wielding, being the highest level player in the game. He is not as well known as Asuna, which is just, it just ends up being pretty funny that he's just not the most noticeable character in many ways. So that was really fun to see. And then immediately after this, they get the message from Heathcliff calling them back to the front lines, kind of breaking up their 2-week vacation. And we get a kind of really nice kind of final scene between Nishida and Kirito and Asuna, where basically he's kind of almost come to accept that, you know, like, I almost feel like I'm never going to get back to the real world, that I've come to accept my life here, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. And it just kind of reaffirms their kind of desire to want to complete the game, that they will get back eventually. But Asuna, for the first time, you know, she says something that we as the audience have known basically for a while now, since the episode that she references here in her little flashback moment. We've known that this is basically the way she's felt, but seeing her say it and explain it for the first time here makes it all the more impactful, in that you really truly see the impact that conversation, when Kirito was lying down, he told her to kind of lie down as Aincrad's best day, and you see that from then on, and their growing relationship, then spending more time together, it went from with her always wanting to clear the game to enjoying spending time with him. And it's come to the stage now where she doesn't, if they get out, she's not going to hate the time she spent in this game. She's going to really appreciate it because without it, she would never have met Kirito, who is extremely important to her, as we see, just again getting over the strength of this relationship. But yeah, from there we basically cut to kind of preparation for like the boss battle and stuff like that. They go to meet with Heathcliff, and he explains that the recon party's been wiped out for the next boss, and that they need to go in hard here. Basically, that this is going to be a tough fight. The book actually, one thing it does explain here is that all the players, especially on the assault team, notice that on the floor 25 boss, the floor 50 boss, and they're assuming going into the floor 75 boss that it's going to be like a whole other level. Like this is big shift in that, a big shift in terms of how powerful the bosses are. They've noticed that in all these kind of milestone moments, so they're kind of very prepared going into this fight. That's why they organize everyone, because they know it's going to be crazy, especially with the death of all the recon team members. And then we cut to what ends up probably being the most important scene in the entire episode here, and probably one of the more emotional ones in the entire series. Getting across that, okay, we're kind of leading up towards the finale here, and that is just basically Kirito in front of Heathcliff says that above everything else, he's putting the safety of Asana above everything when it comes to the fight, which is really important for him to say, because he's always been like a solo player, and for him to just say like my focus in the battle here is protecting her, nothing else. But then immediately he asks her to kind of stay behind. That he knows she's not going to like it, but he asks her to do it because he cares about her so much. He doesn't want her to die. And you understand why he says that, but at the same time, what Asuna says to him is kind of shows that he wasn't fully understanding her feelings. That, how would she feel if she stayed behind and had to hear about him dying or something like that? How would she feel? And she just says to him that would leave me with nothing to live for, basically, in this game, and I would kill myself. And it's like, whoa, you're gonna go that far, but that's how much she cares for him and how much he's kind of changed her opinions on stuff in the game. And it just, from there, you just get into this kind of situation where you see kind of that as strong as these two are and as strong as their relationship is, they're in such a high pressure situation, that the whole game of death thing coming heavily back into play here, that their relationship could kind of end at any moment if one of them dies, and they are beginning to lose their nerve a bit when they have been two of the most powerful players in the game. And Asuna then makes the point that it as much as it's cool that you're suggesting that we run off together, we do have to also remember what our bodies are going through in the real world. Like, we have to assume we're all being kept alive in hospitals, and either way we're on a time limit. If we just wait things out here and play the game really slowly, taking everything super safe, we could die just from the hospitals struggling to keep us alive as our kind of bodies waste away. But if we try too hard and go too fast to clear the game, we could die really suddenly in the middle of any fight that happens. So it gets across just how crazy this situation is again. That we had it established in like the first episode that this was the case, and other episodes have done that with characters dying. But going into the finale, basically, it just gets the situation across even more, that they're kind of out of time, that they can't spend months and months more working away at the next few floors. They've got to go for it here. There's no more time for vacations. And it's an interesting situation that to basically keep their relationship alive, transitioning from the game world to the physical world, they have to constantly put it at risk. And it's an interesting way that they did it, because a lot of the times when you have this situation where like one character wants to protect another but they're also useful in battle, they never quite go down this road of just kind of showing both sides feeling the same way but understanding each other. So I just thought it was really well done, and especially when like the emotions got really heavy in this scene, both of them kind of crying basically, and Asuna just says that I want to actually go on real dates with you, really get married, grow old with you. Again, it's just these things getting across that their relationship is really deep and meaningful and stuff like that. And I just like that they constantly do that. That going into this fight, you have had this super emotional moment, so you're almost expecting something to happen, but at the same time, these are our two main characters. Are they really going to do anything? But either way, from there we go to basically the meeting of everyone who's participating in the boss battle just before they head in, and we basically focus on Klein and Egil. We get to meet again, and they just joke about loot and stuff like that. Egil being a businessman and stuff like that. And from there, we just Heathcliff arrives with his top Knights of the Blood Oath men, and they head into the 75th floor boss battle, and we get the Skull Reaper boss, who I gotta say, definitely the best, I think, monster design we've seen so far in Sword Art Online. Like, Ilflang the Cobalt Lord, the first floor boss, was cool. The Gleam Eyes was not too much different from him, even though it's a very memorable fight for what Kirito does and stuff like that. But in terms of just the quality of a really strong boss design, this floor's boss, this episode's boss, is far and away the best. This basically weird scorpion centipede thing made out of bone, and just everything looks like armor. Everything looks like some sort of a scythe or a knife. You really see how deadly it is just in its design. And then when things actually get going, the fact that the boss drops from the ceiling, immediately kills 2 people in one shot. You see a few more people die in the battle as well. And then just the idea that, like, okay, 4 people have just been killed, and then Heathcliff steps forward and basically blocks its attack and super easily. But again, he doesn't strike back. He doesn't attack the boss ever. He doesn't issue any orders once the battle is in play. He gives them basic orders just before they walk in, but after that it's basically left for Kirito and Asana to kind of take over. Again, she's the second in command of the Knights of the Blood Oath. Kirito is now known basically enough within the kind of assault team to be considered one of the leaders, and so basically the 2 of them take over command, leading the boss raid. So it's an interesting dynamic that happens there, that the 2 of them together, not being defensive players, have to basically block attacks together to not take damage and stuff like that. And them getting involved inspires like Egil and Klein to get involved, and then everyone else gets in, and they're struggling, but they're starting to get damage in on the boss. And it's that's where we end the episode. You know, we're in a really tough boss battle. Because the books, one thing they do go into is they just in passing, a lot of the characters mention to each other that, like, oh yeah, we met at X floor boss battle, and they mentioned that a couple of them went like very easily. Like after the Gleam Eyes fight, they mentioned that they hadn't lost anyone in a battle since like the floor 60 boss or something like that. So they've had, like, at least probably over the course of the 75 floors here, about 30 floors or something like that where no one died. Not everyone has died on a boss, and they mentioned that a couple of them were easier than others, a couple of them were fairly tricky, but that some of them were very kind of easy almost. So this one is really got across that this is going to be an absolute chore to basically defeat. Yeah, admittedly we don't spend a lot of time on this boss. Like, we get this scene at the very end, and we get most of the action happens in this episode, and then we get basically the first few minutes of the next episode just, okay, they defeated it, and then immediately transitions into basically the final moments of Aincrad, because of the way everything kind of plays out. But again, this episode I think is really good. I like that they didn't just jump straight back into everything heavy. Like, the message didn't come like a minute or 2 into the episode. It came about 5, 6, 7 minutes into the episode. That they spent a bit of time saying that, okay, they're still on their vacation. It was planned to be a lot longer than perhaps it was. But when they get the message, it's like, oh, you remember that when Heathcliff basically gave them the vacation time, he said, "You'll be back sooner than you know it." And so it all fit together nicely. You got kind of a final moment of just kind of happy home before everything got really real. And even after that, you still got a kind of final peaceful moment for Kirito and Asuna, just because at the end of the day, they don't get really a moment to themselves in the next episode, apart from like the very kind of end just before Aincrad ends, and Kirito wakes up. So the scene, basically in Heathcliff's office, I think it is, just before they head out into the battle, um, is their kind of final really big emotional moment, and it works both in a dramatic and romantic sense, in that Asuna mentioning real life marriage, real life dating, and stuff like that. It again gets across the strength of their relationship, plus them addressing the fact that, look, all the players here are on the time limit. We can't take too much longer to finish this game. So it's either we risk our lives in battle or just slowly die in real life. And that they don't want that to happen because they want to be together forever. So just I thought it was a very effective episode, as most of the Aincrad arc is. I think I'll have a little bit more to say about next episode, because there's obviously the big issue of they ended the arc very suddenly, and it's a big thing within, I think, a lot of the people who maybe are only casually into Sword Art Online. Just, okay, it's popular anime, gonna watch it. It's a very common opinion I've seen around the place. Reactions to basically episode 14, but we'll get into that on probably, well, like, I'm planning on doing an Avatar video tomorrow. It'll probably be Tuesday, before I get around to it, because the Star Wars Rebels Season 2 premiere is on Sunday. Oh no, wait, it's either way. It'll be It'll be sometime within the next like 4 or 5 days. At the latest, it will be Monday or Tuesday by the time this episode, the next episode review comes out for Sword Art Online. I'll also announce now that I will be doing a separate video before I start the ALO arc, just basically giving a kind of overview, kind of final thoughts on the first arc of Sword Art Online, just so I can cover it all generally rather than these reviews focusing specifically on certain episodes. But yeah, that's been today's review. Thanks for watching, and bye.